So you want to learn Blender, but you're not sure where to even start. Well, in this video, I'm going to help you get started with the very basics of Blender so that you can start your journey using this amazing piece of software. Now, you can do many things with Blender. For example, you can do 3D sculpting, you can do animations, VFX, run simulations, and of course, you can 3D model. Well, first things first, we need to get started by downloading Blender. Head on over to the blender.org website, and I will also insert a link in the description below. And all you need to do is download the current version of Blender for your dedicated operating system. So let's get started first with basic movement. To the right of the screen, you're going to see 4 different buttons. The first button will allow you to zoom in and out in the viewport, and if you hover over the button, you will see a small description of what this button allows you to do. So if we click and hold, and now move the mouse, you can zoom in and out. The next button allows you to move the view. So if we click and hold that, and then move our mouse, you will be able to essentially scroll in the 3D viewport. This third button, it will toggle the camera view, and what that means is we will take on the perspective of the camera. So if you click on that, we will see exactly what the camera is seeing, and what the camera is seeing is here within this outline. So everything that's the darker shade of gray is not within the camera view. So let's click that button again to get out of the camera perspective. And then there's this last button here, which will enable you to switch from perspective to orthographic mode. And we will talk about those different views later on in the video. So if you click on that, you can toggle on the perspective mode or orthographic mode. And each one has its own benefits depending on what you want to do. Additionally, for these 4 buttons, there are a few shortcuts. In order to zoom in and out without having to always press on this button, you can just use the scroll wheel on your mouse, and if you scroll down, you will zoom in, and if you scroll up, you will zoom out. In order to scroll around the view or move the view, you can hold down Shift and then press on the middle mouse button and move your mouse. In order to toggle on the camera view, you can either click on the top left menu here, click on View, and then Viewpoint Camera. That will toggle on the camera view. And then there is also the numpad shortcut. So if you have a number pad on your keyboard, you can just press on the 0 button, and that will toggle on the camera view. If you don't have a numpad, for example, if you're working on a laptop, you need to emulate the numpad via the user preferences. So click on Edit, Preferences, head on over to Input, and then turn on the Emulate Numpad option. Then you can X out of that, and now if you press the 0 key, you are emulating the numpad and it'll toggle on the camera view. Okay, I'm quickly going to disable that because I do have a numpad. So now let's talk about rotating around the object. We know how to move or scroll the view, but let's say we want to scroll around this cube. What we have to do is hold down the middle mouse button and then just move your mouse, and you will be able to scroll around any of the game objects. And lastly, we can turn on the orthographic view by pressing 5 on your numpad, and if you press it twice, you will get out of orthographic mode and head back over to the perspective. Now let's talk about adding and deleting objects. Deleting objects is very easy. You can right click on an object, and then that will bring up the context menu, and all you need to do is select the delete option, and that will get rid of the object. So again, you left click on your object, right click, and then delete. Now for this, there's also a shortcut, so we always have to select the object that we want to delete. And if you had noticed, so if I right click on this, the shortcuts are written here to the right, and the shortcut for deleting an object is the X key. So all I need to do is press the X key and then select delete. Now let's quickly add some objects to the scene. You can add an object by heading over here to the top left and selecting add. And here you have all of the different objects which you can add into your scene. Let's just stick with meshes for now. We can re-add a cube. So let's quickly delete that cube and let's use the shortcut to add a new object. The shortcut to add an object is Shift A, and that will bring up the add menu. And now let's select the monkey head, and so now we have successfully added an object to our scene. Well, that brings us over to the three basic operations. You can move the object, you can scale it, and rotate it. So first, let's start with moving this monkey head. On the left side of the screen, you should see your toolbar, and in case you don't, just quickly press on the T key and that should bring it up. And here you will have a few different options. Okay, so first let's start with the move gizmo. Now you should see these three arrows in the middle of the monkey head. And these three arrows represent the direction in which you can move your object. So you can move it up in the Z-axis, or down in the Y-axis, and then also in the X-axis. If you use the arrows, you essentially lock the movement to that axis. Now if you wanted to move just in the Z and Y direction but not the X, press here on the red square, and that will allow you to move the object in 2 dimensions, excluding the X. And here the X-axis is mapped to this red line, and so essentially what's happening here is the color of the square is excluding that axis. And the same is true for the other axes. For example, if you didn't want the object to move in the Y direction, but you did in the Z and X, then you press and hold on that green square and then move your mouse. Until you move the object to the desired position. And there is also a blue square that locks your movement only in the X and Y directions. Okay, so that is all about movement. Let's say you made a mistake and you want to reset the position of your object to go back to the world origin. All you have to do is press on the Alt or Option key depending on whether you're on a Mac or a PC, and then press G, and that will reset the position of the object. Now let's talk about rotating the game object. Same as with movement, you can rotate the object in the 3 given axes. And this white circle here allows you to rotate the object through the perspective of the view. Again, if we want to reset the rotation of the object, we press on Alt and R, and this is a shortcut to reset the rotation. And lastly, we have the scale tool. So just like with the move and rotation tool, you can scale in a given axis, or you can scale uniformly on all 3 by using the outer white circle, clicking on it and dragging. And if you want to reset this scale, press and hold Alt and S. And this very last tool, the transform tool, allows you to modify the movement, rotation, and scale of the object all at the same time, all within one tool. So you can move it, rotate it, and scale it without having to toggle on each of the respective gizmos, which can get pretty annoying. Okay, so let's quickly reset this monkey head. So I'm going to first reset the movement with Alt G, then the rotation with Alt R, and the scale with Alt S. Now you may have guessed it already, but there are shortcuts for all three of these movements as well, just like there were for adding and deleting objects. First, you must select the object that you want to manipulate, and here I'm just going to quickly go back to the selection tool. If we want to move the object with a shortcut, you need to press on the G key, and G I believe stands for grab. And then all you have to do is drag your mouse and that will move the game object to wherever you'd like. Now if you want to lock your movement to a given axis, so let's say I just want to move it in my x-axis, I just press on the X key, and once you have positioned the game object wherever you'd like, you just left click and your object will remain in that position. So I'm going to quickly reset the position again. We can also move the object by excluding an axis. So let's say we wanted to again just move this monkey head in the X and Y directions but not the Z. I have to first press G and then Shift Z, and that will allow me to move the monkey head in the XY plane but not in the Z. And the same is true for the other axes. So let's say I wanted to exclude the Y axis, I press Shift Y, and that will lock the movement. Okay, so let's reset that. And then the shortcut for rotation is R. And you can lock your rotation for a given axis through the shortcuts as well, and exclude an axis just like with move. Let's quickly reset that, and then the last shortcut is S for scale. And you can exclude or include as many axes as you'd like. So quickly reset that. And those were the three basic operations for manipulating a game object. Now let's say we want to edit a game object. You know, all of these meshes have a default shape, but we're not able to modify this shape from within the mode that we're currently in. So let's quickly modify this monkey head. In order to do that, if you move to the top left, you will see that we are currently in object mode, and we're not allowed to modify the shape of the object from within this mode. So we need to move over to edit mode. And when we click on edit mode, not only will you see many more tools open up here on the left side of the screen, but you will also see all of the vertices that compose this shape. And you can select one or more of these vertices by holding down Shift. And then we can also move and manipulate these vertices with the shortcuts that we used before. Right, so now the monkey has a new hairdo. So let me quickly undo that. But let's say we want to move this entire face, right? We would have to hold down Shift and select all of the vertices and then press G to move that entire face. We can also change the current selection mode that we're in. So right now, you should see these different selection modes up here. The first one is the vertex select, so that's the mode that we're in now. There's also edge select, so this allows us to select edges within the mesh. And lastly, there's face select. So to move that around, again, we can rotate it and scale it. Same as with the regular mesh. So let me quickly undo all of that, and let's just give the monkey head a mohawk, because why not? There we go. So now we have a cool looking monkey head. To exit object mode, you can just quickly again go back to this drop down and select object mode. And there are shortcuts for that as well. If you press the tab key, you will enter edit mode, and if you press it again, you will enter object mode. So that's an easy way to get in and out of these two modes to modify any of the meshes that you have. The last topic that we're going to cover in this video are the different views that you can enter in Blender. So like I mentioned before, there are the perspective mode and orthographic mode, and you can toggle that on and off through this button here, or by using the shortcut 5 on your numpad. But let's say we want to look at the monkey straight from the front. It's going to be hard to try and maneuver it perfectly to the front. So what you can do is select View, Viewpoint, and then you will see different options for the different views that we have here, so that we can look at the monkey from the top, bottom, front, back, right, and left. First, let's select the front, and this will perfectly position the view in front of the monkey head, and it will automatically turn on orthographic mode. But let's say we want the perspective mode, we can just press 5, and it will keep us in front of the monkey, but through the perspective mode. So let's quickly toggle orthographic view back on. And now let's move over to the side. So select View, Viewpoint, and then to the right. We can look at the monkey from the right, and so on. And there are shortcuts for this as well. So the shortcut for the front view is the number 1 on your numpad. The shortcut for the right is the number 3 on your numpad. If we wanted to look at the monkey from the top, all you have to do is press on the 7 key. To look at the monkey from the back, you press Command 1 or Control 1, depending on what operating system you're in. To look at the monkey from the left, press Control 3. And to look at the monkey from the bottom, you press Control 7. And to exit this mode, all you have to do is rotate with your middle mouse button like normal, and then you're back to where you were from the beginning. And so that's going to do it for today's video. I hope that was useful, and I hope that this will help you get started with Blender. I have some very exciting content coming up that will build off of these fundamentals, so make sure you stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. That always helps the channel grow more. And here are some other videos that you might like. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time.